Lori Rosen reminded us all that Ann Romney, who's a mother of 5, a survivor of breast cancer and MS, had, quote, never worked a day in her life. Do we have any stay-at-home moms in the audience that have never worked a day in their life? And, you know, they tried to paint this as an isolated remark that was taken out of context, but I really believe that it's part of this larger view that the left has on the role of the woman, and especially in a traditional family structure. So I'd like to hear from our panelists, especially being that this is the 40th anniversary of no-fault divorce. Looking at this in the larger context, do you think that the real war on women is an attack on the traditional family structure?
Well, that has been the premise of feminism, from radical feminism from its earliest days. And I mean, again and again, Ms. Magazine, all these quotes about how in order to allow women to be equal, we need to destroy the institution of marriage. We need to go after the traditional family network. And that has been the goal. It's Gloria Steinem, a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. That ridiculous rhetoric. And now the problem, one of the major problems is it's institutionalized in our schools and our colleges and universities. This notion that there's something wrong with being in a mutually supportive relationship called marriage, where the center of our society, basically. And there will continue to be an all-out assault. And one of the, just tying back into what we had talked about before, not only is the left's objective this attack on traditional marriage and traditional families, but it is that attack on independence and empowerment, because this government, particularly under Barack Obama, wants the majority of Americans to be in some way dependent on the federal government. It's like Nancy Pelosi said, the best stimulus program is increasing food stamps. But we know, and so does the left, that the minute the majority of the American people become dependent on the government, the democracy is in peril. And that's basically where we are. But I do think, to your point, Ruth, about marriage, I think it is absolutely the left's objective. But of course, you're not going to hear President Obama talking about it, but you are going to see President Obama calling Sandra Fluke and telling her what a great warrior she is, and calling her parents and telling them how proud they should be of her for demanding free birth control. Let me tell you what my mother would be doing if that had been me sitting there. You would not be seeing my mother ever again, basically.
And to piggyback on what Kate said, and she mentioned this a little bit earlier in her remarks, don't you think it's offensive that Barack Obama picked Julia to be, the life of Julia as part of his re-election pitch to women? Julia never has any kind of male involvement in her timeline.
She's a mother, though.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It was like, but there's never any male throughout her entire. There's no daddy in the beginning, and there's no husband of her father. There's a systematic attack going on, I think, against traditional marriage with the left. And there was a poll that was done, I think it was last year, because I was on Glenn Beck's TV show in a discussion talking about this with Bill Bennett, who is a great warrior on values, and a champion, I should say. And the Pew Charitable Trust, I think, did it. And what they found is women still want men to be their protectors. And I don't mean this in a sexist way. I mean that when women were polled, they said they prefer traditional roles in family. That doesn't mean that they're not going to work, but they do. When they're thinking about a mate, the women that were polled said the fact that their potential mate would have a stable job and some stable income was very important to them. So I think, why are we, and I have a problem when Republicans aren't taking up for traditional family values. Doesn't mean that it negates women being CEOs or politicians. It just means that's the glue of moving society forward, and we need to be championing that and standing up for that.
Heartbreaking things I've ever seen. I lived in the inner city in Washington, D.C. when I was there, and I was befriended by some kids in the neighborhood, and I went and met one of their moms. She had, I think, 8 children, all by different men. She was living in abject poverty. It was clear that she was living on welfare and a number of other kinds of welfare programs. And my first thought was, when I saw her, I met her, she was laying in bed, completely drugged up, with a 2-year-old screaming beside her. And my first thought was, I was angry. But then I thought to myself, when this woman was 12 years old, This is not the life that she had envisioned for herself. She had dreams, and she ended up here. And there are white congressmen, liberal congressmen in Congress who are living out their dreams. And there are feminists at the university who are living out their dreams. And this woman will never, ever live out her dreams because what the government has done for her, to her. And that's what it comes down to. The life of Julia is repellent to me as an independent woman. But it is even more repellent to me when I see the women whose lives have been affected by cradle-to-grave care, liberal, progressive thought in this nation. It is not just what repels me, it breaks my heart.
All moms work hard. We created this through Colorado Women's Alliance after those comments about moms. So any of you who want one, let me know. But as a mom of 3 teenagers, I can relate to Ann Romney, and all I can say is I'm thankful I did not have 5 boys. I stopped. But what's interesting is the mom guilt. If any of you are moms out there, you know what this is. Whether you're a stay-at-home mom, or whether you're the CEO, or whether you're a teacher in the classroom, moms have to stick together. It's a rough deal raising children, whether it's one child or many children, and whether you work outside the home or not. And I think those comments were so telling about a radical feminization of our society, that only women who earn a paycheck are worthy. I think it was more, I didn't really see it as much of an attack on marriage, but an attack on moms, and an attack on all choices that women make. And I think that really is, Democrats are fine with choice as long as it's defined as choices that they find acceptable.
Right.
And I think that's shocking to me. And as a mom, I think all moms are part of it, you?
Kate and Krista mentioned college campuses and the university feminists, and I know from personal experience, when I was just a freshman in college at Georgia Tech, I had actually written a card to the director of the dean of the Women's Resource Center, and I was interested in a program she was doing, so I thought I'll reach out to her, send her a card. I noticed that she was married, so I addressed it as Mrs. Upton, sent it to her office. The next day, I got called into her office. I thought she would be appreciative of my gesture as a freshman on campus. She said, "Ruth, I will never call me Mrs. I will never have the stamp of a man on my name." And I just couldn't believe it. I was so taken aback by that, but that's really indicative of their mindset. That so many liberal women, even those who have chosen to get married, oftentimes want to just shy away from that completely and not even acknowledge that relationship. So I think that is sad, and I'm grateful for your perspective and how we confront that.
Just one real quick thing. I think conservatives have to be careful as well in honoring women's choices, because we are very traditional. A lot of us more conservative women, very traditional, and we honor those traditional choices. But let me tell you, we need women leaders. We need women who are moms, who have small children. We need them to be finding time and finding the support to step out and be leaders in our movement and leaders in the party. And we have to support them, because if these moms are passionate about their kids, passionate about our future and our freedom, if they're not out there being warriors for that freedom, nobody else is going to be. And when we go out there and stand up for those values, we bring other women who are in our same sort of phase of their lives, or just other women, we encourage them to consider conservatism as a possibility for them. So I think it's really important for us, for conservatives, to champion women who want to get involved in public life in any way possible.
Susana Martinez and Mary Fowler and Leah Love. These are women that are going to be game changers for conservatives, because they know how to talk to Black women, Hispanic women, white women, and they know how to talk about the same subjects men and women care about: jobs in the economy, education, their children, their future, our country, our values, our Constitution, our freedom, our justice system, our liberty. We need it to come from all of those disparate voices. Because people will listen more carefully if they can say, I identify with her because I look like her, and listen to what she's saying. She's talking about free enterprise. She's talking about free enterprise as a way to set me free to be the person I want to be. Like that woman who had dreams and couldn't pursue them. That's what you're talking about.
And I just want to, and I know we have to answer another question, but I want to agree with what the Congresswoman is trying to emphasize over and over again to us, and that people ask me all the time about why more blacks aren't in the party. Blacks, like Hispanics, and women, and Asians, want to see themselves reflected back in the party.
Absolutely.
Okay?
That's it.
The Congresswoman has said it. I think we, you know, she said it in a bold way. You know, it's in a blunt way, it's ironic that our panel is during lunchtime. Now, I mean, come on, guys. You know, I'm not known for being polite, but it's true. And then, you know, Alan West, we shouldn't be able to count on one set of hands the minority stars in our party. That's got to stop.
Out of time, but this has been a very fascinating discussion, and I really hope that y'all in the audience will take some of these things to heart. Look up these websites, look at the great research and great communications work that all these women are doing, and really make it a point to reach out to the women in your lives and in your community, especially before the election, because we can win. I think we are winning, and we have to give it everything we have, work our heart out the next 33 days, and go from there. Thank you.